I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember bacon makes everything better.
For the victory lap, though. Whoa, whoa. They ain't never seen
it. Is the fifth quarter here on the North Carolina Sports Network. I'm Mike Waddell. He's the coach, Jim Collins, and every week we look back on the weekend that was college football with the big-time teams here in the Old North State. Coming up a little bit later, we'll talk with Eric Lusk, who is the publisher of ncfootballnews.com. We'll look at our fabulous 15, see who maybe took some stumbles. If you were on Tobacco Road this past weekend, you got to feel pretty bad unless you're the guy who has gone off on his team in two back-to-back all-time post-game press conference rants. We're talking there about the head coach of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Dave Clawson.
If any of you fans out there listen to Coach Clawson's post-game press conference this week, it was quite different than the previous 2 weeks. He did shed some light on a couple of things that they were able to do against the Wolfpack and the way that they were able to come back and win the game. And a key call late in the game that he made the statement, and I will not use his exact language. He said, if it works, I'm a hero, and it worked. And then if it doesn't work, then I'm a dumbass. So, he said, I've been doing this a long time. But it was a tough day for teams along Tobacco Road, especially in the Triangle. And we're talking about Duke, North Carolina, North Carolina State. Tough day.
When you look at a team like Wake Forest that had back-to-back very tough losses, what was it that Coach Clawson and his staff probably looked at during the off week? Not specifics regarding their scheme, but just about their team chemistry that tried to get these guys back and focused for a big-time Big Four rival like that game against NC State on Saturday.
Well, Coach Clawson talked about that in his post-game press conference, that they had had a very good week of practice and the attitude was good, et cetera, et cetera.
You contrast that with the locker room a week ago that guys are crying and it's silent. So they've worked hard. We don't always execute great, but this football team cares. They really do. They care and they play really hard. And even the Ole Miss game, they played hard. And so I'm glad to see them rewarded.
If you could tell us about the one-score ball games that you guys are going to be in. What's it feel like to come out on the opposite side of that this year?
It's about freaking time. I used to brag how good we were at those. And the second you do that, the worm turns. Like I used to brag to our team, we went a stretch there from like 16 to 21, that one-score games. We were like one of the top 5 teams in the country. And the second I shared that with our team, and we've shit the bed in those games. And so anytime we do something well, I'm not even going to bring it up anymore. I mean, that's how gifted and talented they are. And for us to not let the ball over our head, like one of my favorite plays of the game was the throwback post that Jamari Glasker stayed on top of. Like that to me, like those are like winning moments. If he doesn't do that, this whole press conference is different. And so we were patient. We stayed on top of routes. We gave up a lot of yards. He hit 2/3 of his throws, almost for 300 yards. But we didn't give him any gifts. And that's really important because the last few weeks we've given up a lot of gifts.
What to say about the kind of leadership of someone like that?
I've always kind of been reluctant to take transfer quarterbacks because you just worry it becomes transactional. Don't get me wrong. We've taken some transfers here that it is transactional. The second it doesn't go their way, their gaff is very, very low. Hank wants to win. He's adjusted to our locker room really well. Kids like him. The players really like him. They know he's about the team. The way he exposes his body on some of those runs. He didn't come here to put up numbers. He came here to be part of a team. and to help our team win. And he's in there apologizing to me for the picks. And, we just won a football game. So, this win was eerily similar to 18. We talked about the 18 game, that guys, we've gone to Carter Finley at a very low point before. And, again, wasn't 21 that we were top 10 in the country, but given the circumstances, those 2 wins might be 2 of my favorite wins we've ever had here because of the mental toughness, resiliency. And again, guys, I get it. Like you're up here. The ball gets tipped on 4th down and here we go again. And how do you regroup? It's a really, really fine line. And we're very lucky and fortunate today that we are on the right side of that line. There was once a book that was written about college football. It's called Every Week a Season.
The key thing that the Deacons were able to do is they eliminated giving up big plays. And explosive plays in today's game create, obviously, this is an obvious statement, explosive plays create points. And let's face it, it takes touchdowns to win games these days. If you don't score touchdowns, then it becomes very hard to win. Kicking field goals is one thing. Everybody wants to talk about taking the points and all that. You better score touchdowns.
In sports, we talk a lot about impact players who make a positive difference. When it comes to our state's economy, the North Carolina pork industry is a true MVP. Each year, the pork industry plays an important role in supporting rural communities across our state. It contributes more than $10 billion a year to the North Carolina economy and supports more than 44,000 jobs. Learn more about their positive impact at ncpork.org. The North Carolina Pork Council, the foundational partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
The one team that was undefeated among the Big Four going into the weekend is not coming out. Georgia Tech and Duke going at it this past weekend, and it was Georgia Tech coming out with the win in that one, 24-14, but not a game where Georgia Tech ran away from Duke. The Duke Blue Devils playing very strong all the way into that 4th quarter, but oddly enough, it was the plays late in the game where the Blue Devils let this one get away. And that's been their hallmark over the last 2+ seasons, a team that had really played well late in game scenarios. Mm-hmm. In this case, Duke not getting the best and Georgia Tech pulling away in the final stanza.
Georgia Tech plays well at home, without a doubt. And this, the game this against the Blue Devils, the Blue Devils struggled to run the football, which they had such success a week ago running the ball against Carolina. They struggled to do that this week. From a quarterback standpoint, making plays in a game, it was Malachi struggled at times in the game. When you're in this day and age of college football, if you score 14 points, it's hard to win a game scoring 14 points because the game is so wide open from an offensive standpoint.
Duke now 5-1 on the season. They go into a little bit of a midseason break right here, Coach Collins. No game coming up this coming weekend. The Duke Blue Devils back in action a week from this Friday coming up in a big battle there at Wallace Wade Stadium against Florida State. So what does the Duke coaching staff now do with basically 12, 11 days with no opponent on the other side of the football?
Mike, what you do is you assess where your team is at this point in time. They're 5-1. Obviously, they have some things that they want to be better at, and you go back and you hopefully are able to correct some of those things. You go back to some of your training camp ideas. And I think the main thing is you get your team healthy. You don't want to go into an open date and practice so much and beat them up where you come out of an open date and you're not healthy with your best players that are ready to play against Florida State. So it'll be a big time study by both sides of the ball, offense, defense, and then add the kicking game into that and say, hey, we've done this very well. We haven't done this very well. we need to change this, we need to correct this. It's coming at a good time for them. They're 5-1 with Florida State, and it's a very very poor Florida State team coming in. So the Blue Devils can get bowl eligible in a hurry if they use these next 2 weeks correctly.
I am a better person and a more effective business owner for having known and learned from Emily Parks over many years now. Emily's company, Organize for Success, helps multi-passionate business owners and executives bring harmony to all the layers of their lives, from work to side projects, from friends and family to hobbies, community, and beyond. With Emily's help, you too can make every minute matter. She helps you determine what earns your time and how to efficiently accomplish what matters. One of the many things I love about Emily is that she does not impose her will on her clients. She listens to them. That way she can better help them cultivate the lives they want to live. You can set up a complimentary call with Emily today by visiting organizeforsuccess.com.
Charlotte and East Carolina have been two teams that have really taken some pretty big hits here in the early part of the 2024 season, 55-24 over East Carolina. So all of a sudden, the 49ers faithful around the Queen City have got to feel like, hey, or we might have the beginnings of a program. And if you're in Greenville right now, you got to think, man, maybe Donnie Kirkpatrick was not the big problem last year in Greenville. That is not boding well right now for Mike Houston. His seat could be the hottest of anyone here in the Old North State among the D1 football coaches.
Challenging day for us today. Not the way we want to play. And I apologize to our fans because that's not what I expected us to do today, and it's not the standard for us. Put it on me, you can put it on our coaching staff, whoever. But I'm the head football coach, and I'm responsible for our performance, and that's not what we want it to be. No, I mean our kids were ready to go. They were excited about this matchup. Charlotte came out and drove down and scored. We came back and had a chance to go right back at it, and didn't make a couple plays, dropped a couple passes, but still, I thought our guys were ready to go. But obviously, Charlotte did a very, very good job with their offensive attack today, their game plan today. It's been a long time since somebody's done that to us, and so we've got to take a really good look at this tape.
An area where you guys excel at is that run defense. I guess what was so difficult today, just slowing that down?
Well, we knew that we were facing a very good offensive line. They invested a lot in that front, and they're very talented. Still, we faced good offensive fronts before. I thought their ability to throw the football early, that gave them some momentum. And then I thought in the second half they did a good job of wearing us down. So, we've got to be able to get off the field, and we've also got to do a better job of driving the football offensively and keeping our defense off the field.
What's the toughest part about this loss, Coach?
Just the feeling right now. Knowing you're better than what you did on the field today, but what you did on the field today is who you are. And so we've got to put our heads down and take a good look at this film and go back to work and get the things fixed that we did not do well today. Get our kids back in a good spot health-wise, get them back in a good spot mental-wise, and get ready for the second half of the season.
After those first few possessions, is there anything specific you point to where it kind of felt flat early?
Well, I don't know exactly what you're referring to right there. I just thought that Charlotte came out and took control of the momentum to start the game. I thought we did battle back there in the third quarter, and we had our chance to really get back in the ball game, and just never could quite do it. And I think we got a little tired there in the fourth, but we've got to play better in all three phases.
This is more of a big picture question, but with these in-state games, just how frustrating have these results been to come up on the wrong side?
It's tough. I mean, certainly we want to win these as bad as any, and this one being in a conference game also, it means a lot to our players, it means a lot to our coaches, it means a lot to our fans. These are games that we want to win, and we've got to do a better job in these games. We've had our opportunities, had our opportunity last year, had our opportunity in the app game early this year. That's something we gotta continue to push forward on.
Unfortunately, Mike, I think you're correct on that. It has been tough on the Pirates at this point in time. To see Charlotte score 51 points is a little bit shocking to me, considering that their output, even though they did have decent output of points and yards against University of North Carolina a few weeks ago. So in this day and age that we live in with the transfer portal, and obviously Charlotte took so many transfers into that program, the meshing and the building of your program and the continuity of your program is so hard to evaluate with so many newcomers. And who knows, maybe Charlotte's now reaching their peak. Maybe they have developed into a good football team. So we'll see as we move down the road, but it's a very rocky road right now for the Pirates of East Carolina.
And in our final FBS game of the week, let's look back at the North Carolina homecoming matchup against the Pitt Panthers. And in this one, it was North Carolina going down for a third straight game.
The game was good. Pitt's really a good team. We knew that. The difference in their team, I think they've always had good skill. They've played good defense. They're always aggressive. The quarterback's really good. He's a guy that came in, made all the difference in the world. He threw the ball well. He threw for 381 yards. We had a couple opportunities. If we intercept the one at the goal line right at the end, we still have a chance to win the game. So we had our opportunities to get done what we needed to get done. But they've got good skill. He dropped the ball off to the backs and did a good job. We gave up 4 or 5 explosive plays that we can't continue to give up. That was the difference in the game for us defensively. And we had the 1 turnover for a touchdown, but we still just get 1 turnover. So we've got to we have got to limit the number of explosives they get each week. Georgia Tech will have a great quarterback and skill next week, and then we've got to still force more turnovers. I kept thinking we'd get a strip, we'd get a tip, and even like I said, the last one there that he threw up down at the goal line, that gave us a chance to still win the game. Offensively, we keep getting better. We're really not turning the ball over. We're running the ball pretty good, but we're missing plays. We got to be more consistent. If you go back and look at third downs, we were 5 of 15. They were 9 for 16. You can't do that. The other thing, we knew they were going to move the ball and score, so we wanted to be really aggressive on fourth downs. We were 2 of 6. You can't go for fourth downs and make 2 of 6. You got to make them. So if we'd done those things, we would have walked in here a lot happier and felt much better about the game. Kicking game was better. Field position was better the second half. Nate McCullum finally got some kickoff returns. It really helped us with field position, and we didn't have penalties on them, so that gave us a better chance. But if you look at it, you have to make a 4th and 1 at the end of the game to win. You have to. That's what it comes down to with football games. You and them right there, 4th and 1, to give you a chance to win the game, and we don't make it. And it had to be, it's so close. That's what we've got to do. And we've got to continue to be positive, and we've got to do a better job coaching. It's about the kids. It's not about anything else. Questions?
2 of those missed 4th downs were inside the 10, 1 early after a 19-play drive. What went into thinking there about not taking the points after doing that? And then later in the game, you had another opportunity as well in a similar situation.
Yeah, we didn't think we were going to stop them very well just going into the game. So we made a conscious decision going in. We need to score touchdowns. We couldn't be kicking field goals.
Does that stem from maybe a little lack of confidence in the defense?
No, it stems from their quarterback being really good. They're one of the highest scoring teams around, and they were really good. And analytics said go for every one of them. I mean, they'll tell you to kick, but they knew Pitt was going to score points. So if we'd made those 4th downs, you wouldn't be asking that question. Very honestly. I'm not being critical of you, but if we'd made them, we'd been talking about how aggressive and smart the coach was instead. How stupid he was for not kicking field goals. And you don't know you're going to make the field goals. We got a good kicker, but that's not 100% either.
And to clarify, I was just more wanting to know what went into the thinking behind it, so I'm not critical of it either way.
No, I wasn't being critical of you being critical.
Reed's the smallest guy on the field, but hurt you pass receiving more than running the ball? He's a little guy that can make it.
Yeah, he's really quick. He transferred from Western Carolina, and we knew it. He's so small. He hides behind those big linemen. You can't find him. He just slips around. And again, I'm amazed how good their quarterback is and how poised he was as a young player that started 5 games now on the road with pressure. I mean, he's really a good player. He just came from nowhere. So he was a 5th guy, I think, at Alabama, which shows you how good Alabama is. So he was hid in the depth chart, but he's changed who they are completely.
How about getting Rucker back today? Back in the game. Getting Rucker back.
Yeah, it helped us. He didn't get to play much. We only had him in on 3rd downs. We wanted to make sure that he's totally well and comfortable before he gets back out. So hopefully he'll be able to play a lot next week. In the first play he's in there, he forces a quick throw and knocks quarterback down. So we need him back. We need him back in leadership, but also he's one of the best players in the country on defense.
Last week on defense, he said some of the problems were just how amped the guys were to make a play. So I'm curious, those 4th down plays versus key moments in the game, I mean, did you see maybe some of that there? Was it just simply execution? Anything?
I don't know. We'll go home and watch it right now, and then we'll talk to them tomorrow and see what they were thinking. We'll talk to Coach Collins and our secondary guys and see why we weren't in the right position. And it's usually something a little bit different in every situation and something crazy for people that hadn't been in that huddle.
Would the same thing go for them going 8 for 10 on 3rd down, the second half the same? You got to look at it and see kind of what happened.
Yeah, I think the quarterback's really good. They were confident enough. Most people would run the ball and run the clock out down at the end there, and they're throwing it.
He had a few runs that picked up.
And I think he's really good. He's as good as quarterbacks I've seen this year. And we thought that coming in. We were just hoping a young guy might throw us some balls. And he threw us a couple. One of them we caught for a touchdown, one of them we didn't. So he did a really good job.
You guys were able to get Nate a few more touches today. He ends up with 10 catches. I guess his involvement early in the year, I guess compared to last year, was that more so just a result of offense maybe figuring itself out? And I guess in getting him involved today, what kind of led him to getting the touches that he did?
Yeah, he is healthy. We're figuring out who we are offensively. We're on our 3rd quarterback, and one that didn't go through spring practice. And then you've got your guards and centers. You have tackles haven't played. Your guards and centers have all had high ankle sprains and flu and diabetes, and it's been, and your coach is down. So it's been an amazing year with the stuff that we've had to deal with to get things fixed. And that's why I think we'll get better on offense each week. There were signs today of looking like an offense that we had in the past against a really good defense that blitzes all the time. So a lot of the mistakes that we made against JMU and we made against Duke with protection, we fixed today. So that should help us as we look at Georgia Tech next week.
When do you start to look around as a coach and saying, man, are we starting to show the symptoms? Because North Carolina now has lost 3 consecutive games. You wonder if North Carolina may start to go through the motions.
Well, Mike, only the people within that building know exactly where they are mentally at this point. I thought watching the game, I thought that the Tar Heels played hard. I thought they fought and they executed. Overall, at times they executed quite well. But from a defensive standpoint, the problem becomes back to once again that you can't continue to give up big plays. Big plays in this day and time will result and obviously result in points. That's a simplistic statement to make, and I think the thing that I've heard also about the Pitt North Carolina game is that the 3rd down percentage and the 4th down percentage by the Tar Heels was lacking in the game. I learned working for Steve Spurrier many years ago that kicking field goals does not usually win games. So the fact that people are being critical of 2 of 6 on 4th down and going for 4th down in the red zone and not taking the points, I'm 100% on board with the analytics. If the analytics say go and you feel good about it and Coach Brown feels good about it, then you got to go for it. The only statement that bothered me at all is that they went into the game as they weren't sure that they could stop Pitt at this point in time with a quarterback that had played 5 games in his career. Is that correct, Mike? And had a huge game, especially late in the game, made plays against them. So from a Tar Heel standpoint, you got to stop giving up big plays, and you got to get off the field on 3rd down, and you got to execute on 4th down. I'll be honest with you, Mike. I thought the quarterback is playing decent. You got to be able to run the ball a little bit better. You got to protect the quarterback a little better, and you need to make some plays in the perimeter, and you need to create more explosive plays. And I'm sure there's a lot of late nights going on around the triangle tonight. Maybe not at Duke because they've got an open date, but I would say in Raleigh and in Chapel Hill, there'll be some late nights this week.
That is Jim Collins. I am Mike Waddell. This is the 5th quarter. And you'll notice in our new format this week, we're not only taking the words of the coach and myself, but we're also splicing back in the actual post-game press conferences of the coaches around the Big Four. So we're having fun with that. We'll also mix some other coaches in as we go throughout the season. But when we come back right after this timeout, on the other side of this sponsor break, we're going to bring in the go-to guy expert on football right here in the Old North State. We're talking about Eric Lusk. He's the editor-in-chief of North Carolina footballnews.com. He's next.
The Lawson Insurance Group in Raleigh is a family-owned business led by 3 actual brothers who happen to be huge sports fans: Ken Lawson, Miller Lawson, and Michael Lawson. I know these guys, I trust these guys, and I send these guys my own insurance business and that of my family. The next time you have insurance needs, I hope you'll do the same. The Lawson Insurance Group is known for its commitment to community and its dedication to ensuring that North Carolinians and their businesses are prepared for life's inevitable challenges, with the reminder that as a high street insurance partner, Lawson Insurance Group offers local expertise and support that, combined with High Street's extensive national resources, means more choice and support for you as their client. To learn more, search Lawson Insurance Group online. The Lawson Insurance website will be the first link that pops up.
Welcome back into the 5th quarter here on the North Carolina Sports Network. I'm Mike Waddell. He's Jim Collins, and we're joined as always here in the final segment of the week by Eric Lusk of North Carolina footballnews.com. And Lusk, as you get ready to tell us about this week's Fabulous 15, we got to talk about Sunday college football in the Old North State for a second straight week because of weather and schedule craziness going on right now. North Carolina college football extends into Sunday. What happened?
Well, we had Catawba. They were supposed to go to Anderson yesterday, or Saturday rather. They decided to reschedule that to Sunday. Huge game, probably one of the best games of the weekend. Catawba wins 44-41 in overtime. LJ Turner, running back, 329 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, a 61-yard run, breaking school records. He actually did not have the winning run in overtime. He got him right to the goal line, and they let another guy come in. But, outstanding, best rushing performance of the season in the state of North Carolina. The previous best had been Amari and Hampton, had 210 against North Carolina Central. So hats off. Best since Jordan Terrell from Barton had a 403-yard game last year. So there's D2 running backs, man. They get after it, and that will probably get some national attention this week for sure.
It doesn't get much bigger than 6-0 in Johnson C. Smith, the Golden Bulls out of the Queen City, and they just keep on winning and winning.
Yeah, definitely. They best start since 1969. They had that last week. They just keep building on it. A couple of weeks ago, they beat the defending champs, Virginia Union. This past Saturday, they beat the preseason favorites, Virginia State. So they'll take a week off, and then they finish with their 4 North Carolina rivals. Fayetteville State, which has been the dominant North Carolina team for the past probably 6 years. Then they got to play Shaw, Winston-Salem State, and then their old-time rival from the 1800s, Livingston. So, yeah, if they can finish that off, they're nationally ranked for the first time in program history. So definitely the pride of D2 football in the state, and HBCU football. They're the number one ranked national D2 team. They got some ESPN love this weekend. So definitely it's good to be a Golden Bull these days for sure. Last undefeated team in the state. We had 4 undefeateds going into the weekend. Duke, Guilford, and Lenore Ryan all went down. Johnson C. Smith still plugging away. So, it's hard to win. Coach Collins, you talk about that a lot. It's hard to win every football game. And so far, to see a team continue to do that this deep into the season is, that's tribute to what they're doing there for sure.
No doubt, Eric, that's a great statement that you make. It is extremely difficult to win them all. There's there's so much pressure involved with it, and you just look at who would have ever thought Vandy would beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing is, I'm off the subject here a little bit, but I got to say this: how about the Vandy students marching the goalpost 3 miles down Broadway in the center of Nashville and pitching the goalpost into the river? That's classic. Now you have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those things that you were going to say 100 years from now. I was there when we marched the goalpost down, and yeah, definitely, I'd love to see it. And that's what college football is all about. You just never quite know what's going to happen. So, and for them to get a win like that. Some of the other teams, traditional powers that went down, that's why we watch every week, is because of the mystery and the pageantry of it all. I love it.
Kudos to the coaching staffs also right here in state, to the folks at Mars Hill, Brevard, Western Carolina, Appalachian State, obviously other programs impacted, especially on the high school level here in North Carolina with the after effects of Hurricane Helene. And looking at those schools that were able to go forward and get wins. I mean, Jim Collins, you've been a coach. You've been around a lot of chaotic scenes in the pro and the college ranks. As a coach, you try to keep these kids and their emotional stability as even keeled as possible. I would imagine that would have been a very tough assignment over the last week plus for these coaches.
Mike and Eric, this having coached at Leeds McRae as a young coach, and when they still played football, and for a short time at App State, there's a soft spot in my heart for both of those programs and what's going on, and what Western North Carolina and Tennessee and parts of South Carolina and Georgia and Florida have been through this week is just unimaginable. Yes. And the more prayers and the things that we can provide and supplies that we can give to that area. I'll be honest with you, Mike, Eric, I don't know how App State played the game. I don't know were they able to practice? Where did they practice? Where did they eat? Because so many things were going on in the Boone area at this point in time, and also I guess Western Carolina had a big win, and so it's tough enough. I think back to 9/11 when I was at the University of Florida, and how difficult that week was after 9/11. But we still had electricity. We had a bed to sleep in. We had all those things. So God bless these programs and these head coaches and these coaching staffs that are keeping their programs together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Western Carolina played. I was kind of surprised they played actually too, but they play without fans, and they just decided, let's let all the emergency personnel. We won't burden them with fans. That was hard for some of the students who are maybe still around, but I can understand totally why they would do that. And then for Mars Hill, their campus got hit. Brevard's campus got hit. For them to, like you said, for them to even be able to play, that's a tribute for them. And then it was really neat. Marshall, their band played the App State fight song. Those fans will talk trash to each other, but then on something like this, they're going to rally behind them like brothers. So.
Yeah, that Marshall Appalachian State rivalry is certainly special, it does mean a lot, I think, to the fans from Appalachian State to see all of the other fans from around the Sun Belt.
The interesting thing is, Mike, and the Banner Elk community, I still get the reports from the administration at Lees McRae, and I think this is important that we talk about this right now, because this state is suffering and suffering greatly.
Yeah.
The little community of Banner Elk has no running water at this point in time. They're bringing in, they suggest that if you can leave, you need to leave the area. They're bringing in portalets to use it's for obviously for bathrooms. There's no electricity. There's nothing of what we're used to. And that's a beautiful, beautiful little community that's going through some very difficult times. So, folks, if you're listening to what we're talking about now, prayers are needed for Western North Carolina and lots of states right now.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said.
Anything before we get you out of here? What are you most looking forward to next week, Jim Collins?
Well, it's an interesting week, and again, as we prepare to move forward, I think the big game as we move forward is the Tar Heels versus the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. It's a critical game for them as they move into this week, and after 3 straight losses, the Tar Heels, and it's been a struggle against Georgia Tech the last 3 years. The Tar Heels are at home, and they need to play well and need to come out with a win this week.
On the FCS front, Western Carolina, be sure to follow them. They struggled this season, but they are 1-0 in conference. They did get an important win, so they've still got everything in front of them. The CIAA is going to be fun to watch. All the North Carolina teams are right in the midst of it. I think 4 teams have at least 4 wins, and then the South Atlantic with Lenore Ryan losing. You've got Wingate, you've got Mars Hill, you've got Lenore Ryan still in the thick of that race. So those are some of the sidelines in the D2 ranks to keep an eye on this week.
Should be a lot of fun to watch. And guess where we're going to be watching football this coming weekend? That is right. You guessed right. We're going to be in Wrightsville Beach. We're going to be in Wilmington. It's our first ever North Carolina Sports Network football weekend at the beach. Even a little brunch coming up on Saturday morning to kick it all off at the original Saltworks. So come by, meet Bob Hubbard, David Glenn, the rest of our NC Sports Network crew at the original Saltworks. That's coming up Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We will be at Jimmy's and the Pirate Bar coming up on Saturday afternoon. Dinner at King Neptune on Saturday night, and then, of course, back over to Jimmy's on Sunday for NFL Saturday. Should be a lot of fun. Glad that you tuned it in right here for all of your football education. We do it for you right here best on the North Carolina Sports Network.
But that's not by speculation. But the position that I get.